Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 8:56 a.m. South African time. We cross over to Afghanistan and we're going to be talking with journalist Hadis Pardes about the situation unfolding in that part of the world. Now we understand that several foreign aid groups have announced on Sunday that they were suspending their operations in Afghanistan after the country's Taliban rulers ordered all NGOs to stop women staff from working. So it seems as if the matter is getting worse than initially expected. Initially, it was schoolgirls and university students that were banned from attending classes. School and university has been suspended by the Taliban until further notice. And now here is something else that is on the cards playing out in Afghanistan. And I'm wondering just how it's going to impact very negatively, not only on the women and girls of Afghanistan, but the Afghanistani community as a whole, because undoubtedly the NGOs are bringing much needed aid to that part of the world. Hadis Pardes, Salamu Alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
A very worrying situation, is it not?
True. It is, the situation is tense and annoying. Annoying everybody, and the recent announcement and decrease of Taliban really stress, and it's a concerning move from the Taliban. And recently, as you mentioned, the Taliban banned women working in NGOs, and so that's, I mean, in this kind of way, and if they were proceeding like this, so sorry for interrupting. So I'm pretty sure that in this way, like moving, that the end result would be very much dangerous, because I mean, even the Taliban, high-ranking officials amongst the Taliban, they know the negative result of this kind of actions and announcements. And honestly speaking, as an Afghan, so I don't know why the Taliban are doing such kind of, even they understand the end result. And so I mean, that is totally annoying, and that is the thing that it would really, I mean, cut off and shorten the Talibani government or era.
How is this going to impact on the Afghan people? Because we understand that this is much needed humanitarian work from the NGOs. Undoubtedly, the Taliban people, the Afghani people are going to be very hard hit. There is a different narrative playing out as well. And let me pass that narrative by you, suggesting that certain factions within the Taliban and also Afghan people believe that NGOs are planted in Afghanistan, and they are doing all of they sending intelligence back to the West, particularly to the United States. And hardliners within the Taliban and other Afghan people feel very strongly about this, and they feel that Afghanistan is well rid of the NGOs. Would you agree with that narrative?
I mean, look, two problems here. First of all, this narrative is totally wrong. That, I mean, the NGOs from 1 to 0 to Z, all of these NGOs, they are doing, they are doing things like which is not very much necessary. That is the, in the general perception of some of the Talibani officials and the de facto authorities believe that the NGOs, that they are just in Afghanistan for paying high salaries and for and following a specific agenda. But that is not the case. Might be, I mean, Uh, in the last 2 decades, a lot of NGOs who had worked in Afghanistan and still has continued its work. So some of them, they are doing great work, and they are I mean reaching to really the needy people. So it means totally, I mean, you cannot reject all of them, and you cannot say, I mean, that all of them are fine and doing great work. So, I mean, kind of distinguish between these NGOs, and also now the thing is not the continuation or activities of NGOs. That is specifically they are targeting or attacking, or I mean, they are banning women. And as you also know, in some of the NGOs, almost all of them, the NGOs, the mandate of these NGOs. So, I mean, obviously they would do their humanitarian work, but at the same time they would continue. I mean, kind of pave the way for the Afghan women to kind of getting them jobs, and yeah. So that is also the part of. But now, if the Taliban are saying that we are not allowing women to work in NGOs. So how you would expect an NGO to violate its own mandate to not allowing women to work in the scope, and just only continue its work with the men sources. So that would be kind of not. It doesn't make sense. And through this way, I mean, I totally. I mean, I'm worried with how the NGOs and all the relevant organization, which is still working in Afghanistan, reaching to the people without women. So how they're gonna continue, and how they would reach to the needy people. So it will, in summary, I can say in the end result. So unfortunately, the people will be, I mean, they will be suffered more. And obviously, as you are in the picture, some of the NGOs already announced that they will stop their working, because if they are not allowing the women, so I mean, like this, we cannot continue our work. So the end result is the people will suffer more, and unfortunately, a tiny way of, I mean, kind of the people getting support and assistance, that would be also stopped, unfortunately.
Okay, two issues coming out from the Taliban camp. The one suggesting that the Afghan people shouldn't be exposing their girls and women to the NGO mentality, because they would then be conditioned or brainwashed into hankering after a Western lifestyle, eventually then leave Afghanistan and possibly even lose their identity and their religion in the process, because they will be so dazzled by the Western way of life. That's the one argument. We're also hearing that the Taliban is so fractured because you get the very ultra conservative Taliban view, where they believe that women and girls should not be educated and should not be exposed to Western culture at all. But by the same token, senior certain senior Taliban officials have their girl children being educated in out of the country, out of Afghanistan, in Qatar and other such places. How much of truth are in
True.
those two statements?
Look, I mean, when we are saying kind of the Taliban, there some kind of arguments that they are saying that we don't want the Afghan women to be like educated or following the Western culture in these kind of things. It doesn't make sense, because in the last 2 decades, in the previous government, the Afghan women, they were active in all parts of society, and they were observing all the rules, regulation, and I mean, that is the fact of, and all Afghans know that our society is conservative, and they're observing all the rules and all. And the Afghan women, they were with observing the Islamic hijab. They continue their working. So that is, I mean, totally. I mean, when the Taliban are saying that all of the women, they are kind of following the Western culture, and they had brainwashed and something like that. That doesn't make sense in 21st century. And the second thing is, I mean, uh, how the woman, the Afghan woman, that is half population of the Afghan society, how you rejecting and neglecting half of the society. And I mean, when I'm saying, I'm thinking that how they're gonna move forward without half of the population, without I mean, and the more annoying thing is they are saying, like, I mean, uh, some of them saying, like, as you mentioned, some of the reasons that it doesn't make sense, and the people are really not buying these kind of I mean, saying that when they're following the Western culture and like these kind of things. Look, as per my understanding, the Taliban really amongst themselves, they are I mean, the don't know how to deal with the hardliners. Yes, the hardliners, I mean, that is totally the hardliners who had fought for more than 2 decades in the front line of war. And now, I mean, in the capital city of Afghanistan, in the Kabul, when they're seeing that the people have changed very much, so this kind of matching, it is really a problem, and that is, I mean, for the Taliban, for their how they're gonna, I mean, from their own fighters, they are under pressure, and I really don't know how they're gonna manage this, because the hardliners, they want just, I mean, ban the girls. And we don't want, if somebody's, I mean, even the international community is again want to engage, we will fight with them, and through this way, that, I mean, the end result, again, I'm saying this, the end result, the people will suffer more, and unfortunately the future is very unknown. And yeah, I mean, that is annoying and concerning.
Hadith, do you believe that at some point there's going to be a division in the Taliban between the hardliners and the moderates, and maybe the moderates, which may comprise of younger people with more open ideas, try and overtake or convince the hardliners to change their thinking? Is that at all a possibility? And then allow girls and women to go back to schools and university, and hopefully the foreign aid continues, because without the foreign aid, obviously, you know, the poorest of the poor and the neediest of the needy, of children and women, and also men in desperate need in Afghanistan, won't survive. Save the Children, a Norwegian refugee council and care, are very worried. They wanting to pull out what is going to happen to the children, the men and the women who are the neediest of the needy and are out in the rural areas. So, two questions there about the split in the Taliban. Is that a possibility? Do you think that that will change the way and the future of girls and women in Afghanistan? Or do you think that the hardliners have got a very, very firm grip on Afghanistan?
I mean, unfortunately, till now, it seems that the hardliners have full control of. I mean, we have been hearing constantly reporting about the division amongst the Taliban, but now, unfortunately, the reality is that the hardliners, I mean, they have full control, because it's more than around 16 months that the Taliban, they sweep in power in Afghanistan, and they have full control. And by passing every day, they are, I mean, issuing new decrees, and that decrees which is totally, I mean, not. I mean, the recent one is the best example. So don't want the international community also saying, I mean, but now the reality is, I mean, the hardline. It seems the hardliners have full control, and I mean, even it is a little bit surprising for me. So when I'm seeing some kind of, I mean, high-ranking de facto authorities, even some of the ministers, they are saying that that is totally, I mean, banning girls from the schools, and women from working. That is totally, I mean, annoying for us, and we don't want like. So the question in my mind, in the mind of everyone is: so you are the minister, you are the, I mean, the third and fourth and fifth or five. I mean, you are the very strongest person amongst the group. So how you gonna, you are just saying, condemning that we also don't want that. But the question is, who is doing this kind of decision, and who is taking this much serious decision? And even you are, I mean, amongst you, you are criticizing. So that is the big question with the people. And overall, unfortunately, look at ground reality. It seems that the hardliners, that those who are against the, I mean, on they don't want the education of women and working of women, and they, so it seems they have full grip and they have full control. And but I'm pretty sure that in these kind of doing, like, I mean, the continuation of this would really, really cut off their era, and that will really pose a very dangerous threat for the Taliban, because I mean, eventually the people they will I mean react,
There'll be an
and they will
uprising,
together. And
undoubtedly.
yeah, yeah,
People will, they will start they will start making their voices heard, because when people are in a situation of abject poverty and hunger, uh, things, this the balance of the scale starts tipping. My final question to you then is, surely the Taliban do realize, very especially the hardliners, that the more they the more they push back against women and girls and issues around education and women not going to work, the more the Western world, particularly America, is going to hold on to the gold reserves, all the money that they are holding on behalf of the Afghanistani people. They're not going to release those much needed funds for the Afghan people to start rebuilding Afghanistan. Does that realization not sink in? Because once that money is released, you can start rebuilding your country.
true. I mean, you're right. Look, the problem is, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, so in this way, I mean, it is really a big question. So how you gonna govern it, or control? I mean, running a country, it is totally different from fighting in a front line. So that
Mm,
is the two very, I mean, that is totally different things.
mm.
Running a country, it is, I mean, it requires to deal with the international community. It's kind of bargaining, and you can buy something, you can sell something. So in now today's
And
world,
grow your
so
economy, become self sufficient.
sure. I mean, so as Afghan, unfortunately, the Afghan economy is totally depend on the international community
Mm.
aid. So in this kind of situation, that is the concerning and annoying point for Afghans. So if they're continuing like this, so the end result would be very much dangerous, and unfortunately, the common people will suffer more.
And that's where we leave it. Hadith Pardesh, journalist based in Afghanistan. Undoubtedly, we're going to have many more such conversations. You go well, and all we ask is for Allah to watch over the Afghan people. Shukran very much for your time this morning. Assalamu alaikum to you. It is exactly 9:15 South African time on News and Views on Salam Media.